All right, everybody, welcome back. First of all, I want to thank you guys so much for either logging in every morning or listening in the evening. I do hope that these small but mighty 12 minutes help you on your journey towards success. Today, we're going to be looking at group number 3. There are two root operations in this group, and they involve cutting or separation only. First, we have division. Division is where we are cutting into a body part without draining fluids and or gases from the body part in order to separate or transect the body part. It is represented by character value 8, release, represented by character value number 9, is freeing a body part from an abnormal physical constraint. I do want to call your attention to your coding guidelines. There is a guideline that speaks to the difference between release versus division. In summary, just summarizing it, it basically says that if the sole objective is to free a body part without cutting it, then the root operation is release. But if the sole objective is separating it or transecting it, you're going to be coding division. All right, so let's jump into some scenarios. Our first patient has fasciotomies of the right fifth finger and the right fourth finger. And as usual, the patient was prepped and draped in a sterile fashion. Anesthesia was administered. Several incisions were made at the fifth finger and one at the fourth finger at the flexion crease of the proximal phalanx. Fibrous tissue was freed from the skin by blunt and sharp dissection and then were excised. As the tendon contractures were released, the finger extended more and more. And after releasing the fibrous tissue, the patient was able to fully, can you just visualize that? Like wiggle your fingers. The patient was able to fully extend all of the joints of the fifth and fourth finger. And then, of course, they cleaned up the area. So, we're only dealing with two root operations at this point. And so you have to ask yourself, is this division or is this release? And if you recall in the guidelines where they talk about the objective of the procedure. So in this particular case, what the doctor is doing is solving a problem. Sorry, I had a brain freeze. The provider is solving a problem. Okay, so what's the problem? The fingers were not able to flex. So, what the doctor is doing is freeing that body part from that abnormal constraint. And so, we would be coding the root operation of release. Well, you know what time it is. We are going to be going to the index and we're going to be looking for the root operation of release. And let's see. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are going to be taking your CCS exam in the next couple of months? I know I asked that before, but I'm just wondering again how many are going to be taking the exam. All right. So when we get to release, remember coding tells a story. So, release of what? We're releasing tendons in the fingers. Okay. So, the first thing I'm going to do is go to tendons. And I'm almost there. And under tendon, I'm going to go to hand. And then this was on the right side. So, it will take me to table 0LN. And the fourth character of 7 is for the right hand. We do know that they made these incisions so that they could see the area. So the approach is open, no device, and no qualifier. Now, because the patient had two body parts that were involved in this procedure, we are going to report the same code twice. So 0LN70ZZ would be reported twice. One of the things that I do hope that you are realizing in these 12 minutes that we have together, that it's easier to learn coding if you do it in chunks. If you try to sit down one day, out of 7 days and try to plow through it, your brain just cannot remember all that information. All right, next patient had a history of recurrent infections in the perianal area. They were seen 2 days earlier in the physician's office for a perianal abscess and an anal fistula. The patient was given some medication and some enemas, and they did not alleviate the situation, so they decided to do surgery. In surgery, an anal fistulotomy was performed on the skin of the perineum with drainage of the perianal abscess. The patient responded to further treatments of antibiotics, and diet was to be followed in the office. So, I know you're probably thinking, well, this one is probably drainage or not drainage, division, because we were talking about that, right? But I let the cat out the bag because the other root operation that we need to code is the drainage. Drainage in this particular case has a separate and distinct objective. As such, we can code it separately. So we have the division of the perineum, and then we have the drainage of the abscess. So, of course, you know where we're going next to our code manual. And I'm going to go back to the top, return to the introduction. And in the index, I'm going to start with the letter D for division. The other thing that I think is important for you to just remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. As a coder, a brand new coder, you cannot learn coding overnight. You have got to take your time in this journey and just really be positive throughout the journey. I remember when I learned ICD-10-PCS coding, it was like a 2 to 3 day boot camp here in Chicago, Illinois. It was 8 hours in duration. And I kid you not, every day I left and got on the train and came home, I was just like, whoa, 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 and whoa, because it was a lot, right? But I realized that I needed to take my time and sit down and learn the material. All right, so now I'm trying to figure out where I am going because I was talking. Oh, I know now. So I am going to go to skin because this was on the skin, and in particular, it was the perineum, which takes me to 0H8 is the table. Now, you probably notice, wow, all the characters are there, so I can stop. That is a no. Why? According to the guidelines, we can never code from the alphabetical index. We have to verify the code in the table. So 0H8, a body part of 9, skin perineum. This was on the outside of the body, so it's external, no device, and no qualifier. Now we must go back to the index, and in the index, we're going to go to drainage. I think I'm going to go to the letter E and go backwards because maybe that'll get me to drainage faster. Yep, absolutely. All right. And so this particular time, it was perianal. Now, you remember I told you always go back to the very beginning. I'm going to kind of, not going to say cheat, but I'm going to just get us right here so we can get to the end of our. Oh, and I think of course, bypassed skin. So let me go back. Is that where I wanted to go? Now I'm thinking I gotta go back to the scenario because I'm like, Okay, let's do that. All right, so it was drainage of a perianal abscess. There's actually a guideline about the word peri in ICD-10-PCS. Peri means surrounding. So I think I'm going to go back over to the index, and this is why you got to start at the beginning. So I'm going to go to the beginning of drainage, and anal is a better term. Well, hopefully, we'll see if it's over here. I'm just going to be honest. I did that on purpose because I wanted you to see that this is a journey and not something that you learn overnight. So, anus 0D9 is my table. 0D9. And if you've been with me for a couple of days, this is number 6, you know that I am going to say to you that when you have the body parts represented in the one row and the next row, you need to look at what's different. So, for example, the top row, there was a drainage device. They didn't say it was a drainage device in our situation. So, I am going to be going to the bottom, and then my body part isn't even over here. So, does this table continue? Yes, it does. So here's another. I like to have these learning moments. So the table may continue on another page. So you want to watch out for that. And then here again, what do we see? Drainage device. So we're going to go to that second row. And so Q is for the anus. It was an approach of external, no device, and no qualifier. Guys, can you believe it? We have made it to group number 4, which is what we will work on tomorrow. 12 days of ICD 10 PCS coding. I appreciate all of you joining, and I hope that you are enjoying the journey. Everybody, have a great day.